Imran Ahmad Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenau. And may I thank my honourable friend, the lady from Congleton, for bringing this important debate to this place today. The COVID-19 pandemic has drastically altered how we work, interact with one another, and the way in which we enjoy our lives. The manner in which we congregate in prayer has also drastically changed, raising some who have contacted me to question the state of freedom of religion in the United Kingdom. I believe that this debate in this place here has done what I had hoped in providing much-needed perspective to answer those that have contacted me in questioning the state of freedom of worship in the UK by starkly contrasting the situation here with that suffered by untold millions around the world. Under the terms of the present lockdown, that will last until December the 2nd, it is illegal for churches, mosques, or any other places of worship to open for congregational prayer. All significant assemblies of people, however pious, whether that be at entertainment venues, sports halls, or other arenas, have been very severely restricted under the current measures. Together with all God-fearing folk respectful of the law, I'm relieved that it will not be a criminal offence to gather for worship in the new 3 tiers system in England following the current lockdown. Regardless, I do not believe that the measures undertaken by Her Majesty's Government can in any way be construed to represent an attack on freedom of religion or belief. Rather, they represent restricted access to gathered worship in the interests of public health. Whilst it may not, and certainly is not normal, the essence of religion remains free. All people of faith should be united in the common belief that the only true way to worship and serve the Creator is to love and protect his creation. I would argue that the very act of following the government's guidelines, if the intention is to protect one's fellow citizen, is in itself a meritorious act of worship. During the height of the pandemic and the lockdowns, religious leaders transferred their sermons, prayers, studies, and meetings to Zoom calls and other online video and conferencing platforms. Rather than limiting access to religious services, arguably, they have become all the more accessible. This is similarly the case with a wide array of social interactions. Irrefutably, it has not been either the purpose or desire of Her Majesty's Government to exclusively target worship and religious houses in the fight against coronavirus. However, I do appreciate that virtual congregation should never, and indeed could never, replace physical congregation or the feelings and experiences that mass gatherings bring to both an individual and wider community. Freedom of religion and the right to believe is actively under assault across the globe. In Pakistan, Ahmadi Muslims are systematically persecuted by the state, where an Ahmadi can be imprisoned or even sentenced to death for simply describing themselves as a Muslim or describing their mosque as a mosque. In China, as my honourable friend has mentioned, up to 1 million Uyghur Muslims, Christians, and adherents of Falun Gong have been rounded up and placed into re-education camps where they are subject to political indoctrination, forced sterilisation, and violent torture. My honourable friend, the member from the lady from Congleton, has provided vivid and deeply distressing examples, a litany of the crimes faced by those who wish to believe, and how they've been amplified by the perpetrators of such crimes due to the COVID pandemic. The situation we in the United Kingdom currently endure in our fight against COVID bears absolutely no resemblance to those atrocities that we see inflicted upon religious minorities around the world. Freedom of religion here is enshrined and protected. Freedom of religion has not been infringed by the state. Rather, temporary measures on the access to places of worship have been regrettably implemented to control the spread of COVID-19. Religious leaders, churches, synagogues, gurdwaras, temples, mosques, and other places of worship have already proven their ability to provide a vital spiritual service to their congregation during the first lockdown through the use of technology. I pray, Mr. Chairman, that for the day that all these restrictions are lifted and worship can return to normal in the UK, and that all people, wherever they live in the world, are soon able, like us, to take as a given their right to live, work and worship without fret or fear as they choose.